Hello and welcome to the 2020-21 Classroom Grants tutorial for teachers. My name is Amy Snyder, I'm the Director of Educator Programs for Champions for Learning. Champions for Learning is the education foundation for Collier County. With the mission to create life-changing learning experiences for every student, we provide opportunities for students, teachers, and our communities that support student success across the county. If you'd like to learn more about our mission and impact, please watch this short video. One such opportunity for teachers is our Classroom Grants program. This allows us to work with teachers from traditional public, charter, and independent schools throughout Collier County. If it's a Florida Department of Education recognized K-12 school, then teachers are eligible to participate in the grants program. The capacity to provide this opportunity is supported by Suncoast Credit Union. This means that 100% of every dollar donated to the Classroom Grants program goes to support teachers' great ideas. Teachers may apply for up to $2,000 per grant request and can offer up multiple requests throughout the year. So let's get into the details of how this works. This year, the grant portal will open on July 20th. From that date through the end of March, teachers are able to post grants for consideration by the community. If teachers would like to be considered for the Classroom Grant Fund, their requests must be submitted by September the 8th. This fund is a competitive opportunity, and the funds to support it come from Suncoast Credit Union, the Support Education License Plate, and other organizations and family foundations here in the county that want to support teachers' great ideas. So if a grant is submitted between July 20th and September 8th, it will be read by our community-based committee, and they will make that decision as to whether or not that particular grant would be funded through the Classroom Grants Fund. All the grants submitted between July 20th and September 8th will be read by the committee and considered by the fund, And if they're not funded through the Classroom Grants Fund, they still will be left up on our website and are available to be funded by anyone from the general public. So once again, the grant portal opens on July 20th, and we look forward to seeing your requests. So how does that work? On our website, you'll see a couple of different things. You'll see the classroom grants. You'll see it referred to as Find It, Fund It. This is all the same portal. And how do you get there? You start with our homepage, championsforlearning.org. If you already have a profile or an existing user, you can simply click on the blue Apply button up in the right-hand corner. If you are new to our site and new to this process, we definitely encourage you to explore a little bit, and you want to click on the green apple in the middle, Educators and Schools. This will take you to our Educators and Schools tab, and you take your time and look through this, all the different opportunities here, but certainly specifically for Classroom Grants, you want to click here on the Learn More button under Classroom Grants. And this will take you to the Classroom Grants page. So I want to mention just once again the Support Education License Plate. This is through the state of Florida. There are over 120 different opportunities that can be supported by specialty license plates in the state of Florida. And so the Support Education License Plate is one of those choices. If you purchase or renew the plate here in Collier County, $20 of your fee comes directly to Champions for Learning, and 100% of those dollars are put into the Classroom Grant Fund. So if you have a Support Education License Plate, thank you. If you see one on the road, please thank that person for supporting the work of our teachers in our classrooms across the county. So from this page, you want to go ahead and click on the blue button, which says Teachers Post a Request. If you are an existing user, you will just enter your school email address and your password. If you haven't been here in a while and you've forgotten your password, then certainly like any other online platform, you can click on I forgot my password and you will be emailed a link to reset that. From there, it would take you into your profile, and you can see in the right-hand corner, hopefully you're in your own profile, your name should be here, and then you can take a look at all the grants that you have waiting in your queue. You can also make updates to your profile, so if you've had a name change or a school change, you're certainly going to want to go into your profile and make that adjustment before you get started this year. If you're brand new to this process, you're going to go ahead and click on the word registration. You'll get a little pop-up that tells you that you are registering for the teacher portion of the site. Donors and principals go through a different process, but this should be the teacher registration. And again, very similar to any online profile you've created in the past. It's going to be your first name and your last name. Your school should be in this drop-down menu. So when you click on it, you should see your school pop up. We have already entered all the schools in Collier County, so you should be able to find your school there. If not, please do let us know and we'll get that updated right away. Your school email address, do not put a personal email address in here, it will not work. And then your phone number and a password, and submit. So from there, you'll get a notice welcoming you to the Classroom Grants Find It, Fund It site. Now you want to do a little bit of exploring. You have the opportunity to see what is happening in other counties. You can see what's happening here in Collier County. You can monitor your own grant requests and you can make updates within your profile. So if you're a new user, when you click on when you click into your profile, this is all you will see. Create a new grant, because if you're brand new, you haven't created any yet. So you will go straight to that gray button, add a grant request. If you are an existing user, it will give you a few more choices. Any grant that you have submitted in the past will pop up here, so you can take a look at those. It will give you the option to create something brand new, to edit a grant, or to copy a grant, or delete a grant if you so choose. So when you're writing a new request, remember that it is not very difficult. This is a very simple site. It is not as complicated or labor intensive as some other grant platforms that you may be used to. So don't get too worried about it, but you just want to think through your request and any roadblocks before you start writing. So for example, if you want to be purchasing anything related to technology for your classroom, if you are thinking about a field trip, certainly not in the first part of this school year, but maybe later on, or a virtual field trip of some kind, you want to make sure that you know the details. So if it's technology related, check with your principal, your IT person, maybe the people through the district or your specific school as to what is supported and allowed within your school. Also for field trips, whether it's virtual or in person, make sure you know all of the potential ramifications for a date change or a cancellation. Is there a different price for a Title I school? You want to know all those details before you get started. So you can add a brand new grant request, again, especially if you're new to the site, that's your only option. If you're a veteran grant writer, you could also update a grant request by going to your archived grants, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. When you click on the gray Add a Grant Request, the first thing that will pop up is the instructions page. Even if you're a veteran grant writer, please do take a few minutes and read this page. We do update it every year with some new information, so we appreciate you taking a minute or two to review that information. Then click Continue. And remember that each individual grant request caps at $2,000, and you want to save your changes often. It's not unusual for some sort of power surge or technological beep somewhere that will mess up your situation. So you want to save your draft as you go. So your basic information will already be populated coming from your own profile. Your own name and your school should automatically pop up. If you have other teachers that are working with you on this project, you want to include them on the additional teachers line. And you want to pick your particular grade for this project, your subject area, and a catchy title, something that's going to intrigue the reader, whether it's someone from the general public or on our committee, something that's going to want to make them read further and find out what's happening in your classroom. The number of students you anticipate impacting, and if you have a custom image that you'd like to upload, that's always wonderful. For most of the subject areas that you would select up here, there is a stock image that would appear. But if you have another image that you'd like to use, please go ahead and upload that. The three main parts of your grant request are going to be the goal, what will be done with your students, and the benefit. You want to be very clear and specific as you write out your thoughts here. So a clear goal with one or two details. You want to make sure to stay away from any educational jargon or unexplained acronyms. These are general public people that are reading this. They may or may not have an education background, so they may not know some of the terminology that you would use in your school. So for example, if you are an ESE teacher, you probably would want to spell out what ESE stands for the first time that you use that acronym. When you're talking about what will be done with your students, you want to be descriptive, you want to be specific if you can. If it's a one-time activity, that's great. If it's something that's ongoing, you want to give some sort of simple timeline. It doesn't have to be real specific down to the exact day, but some sort of timeline as to what you would be doing with your students. Please connect it to your learning standards and benchmarks. That helps our community see that this project is something that is going to be connected directly to what the students are supposed to be learning in a way to enrich that learning environment. And for the benefit, clearly state what you expect the outcomes to be. What should your students know and or be able to do when this project is completed? When you're thinking about your budget, go ahead and do quite a bit of research as much as you can to get the best price for whatever it is that you'd like to purchase. If you're purchasing through your school, remember that hopefully you'll use your tax exempt and you won't have to pay any tax. If you're purchasing something individually and you're paying for it, then you may have to consider what the tax would be. Please don't forget that. So make sure you include any tax costs, any shipping and handling charges. If you're buying a class set of something, you don't have to list each individual item separately. So in my example here, I have a class set of headphones. You don't have to list 20 separate times $5.95 for a set of headphones. You could say classroom set of headphones, 20 at $5.95, and put your total number here. Same thing if you're ordering a classroom set of books or multiples of anything. You can do the total here. You do not have to list each one individually. But again, make sure to include your tax and shipping. Whatever this number is in this darker gray box, that's the number that your potential funder will be looking at. We do have a budget narrative here, so if there's any other information that you would want to share, you would want to put that information here. So for example, in the last few years, a very popular item for a grant request was the cue ball. Many teachers are purchasing that for their classroom, and the most often we would see the price of $179 for that, but once in a while we'd see a price that was more, maybe $200 or more. So if there's something that is commonly a particular price and you're asking for a little bit more than that, in your budget narrative is where you would want to explain that. Are you ordering a different model? Are you ordering something with accessories? Why would that be a little bit different than other requests that they might see? So you want to go ahead and write that type of thing in the budget narrative. Definitely proofread your request before you hit submit. It's very important to remember that this is a public-facing document, and once it is approved to be living on our website, it's there for anyone in the general public to see. So you want to make sure that you have proofread your request, that everything is spelled correctly and makes sense. So if you are a veteran grant writer and you have other grant requests in your queue that you want to just update and refresh for a new school year, you certainly can do that without having to start over. If you were to click on that particular request, and then in your grant status box, you can see that it will say archived, and you'll want to pick that one and copy to a new draft. When you click on that, it will repopulate everything from the previous one, and then you can just go ahead and make whatever adjustments you need. Do you want to refresh the title? Is it a different number of students? Do you want to add a different image? And then update your goal, what will be done with students, and the benefit, and any adjustments you'd like to make to your budget. So pretty simple, and that way you don't have to start from scratch. You can just update from something you had done previously. Once your grant request is approved and posted to the website, you also have the opportunity to share that out with the community. Although it lives on our website, you want to make sure that people know that it's there and get them excited about supporting your classroom. So you can share it out using Facebook, Twitter, or email. And that will, if you share that out on social media, anyone viewing it can click on the link and it will take them back to our website to read more about your grant request. So once you have submitted your grant request, it has to go through 2 short approval stages. First of all, you'll see in your grant status box, pending. Pending means that it is in the inbox of your principal. So it's always a good thing to talk with your principal ahead of time, let them know that you're submitting a grant request and they can be on the lookout for it. So once your principal has approved it, your status will change from pending to in review. When it's in the in review status, that means it's sitting in our inbox here at Champions for Learning, and we'll take a look at it. Assuming we don't have any questions, if we do have questions, we'll reach out as quickly as possible to get those resolved. If we don't have any questions and your principal has already approved it, then we will click approve as well. And that means that your grant request is now in the approved status. Now, approved does not mean funded. Approved means that both your principal and the foundation, Champions for Learning, have said this meets the requirements, and we're going to post it on our website for the public to view and for our committee to read. That's what approved means. It is approved for posting. It is not funded. If on the off chance you see that your grant status is denied, that generally comes from the principal. So this is why it's always good to talk to your principal ahead of time. Make sure that he or she is on board with your project. If they do deny it, it usually has something to do with potentially the funding could be found in another location. Maybe you didn't need to write a grant request for that particular project, or maybe it's some kind of technology that isn't supported by the district and you didn't know, and the principal catches that and denies the grant request. So again, that's why it's good to talk with them ahead of time. But if your status shows up as denied, then you're going to want to talk to your principal. That's usually where that reaction would come from. So again, once your grant request has been approved, it's posted to our website and it is available for the public to see. So a grant request can be funded, as we mentioned, in 2 ways. It can be funded by anyone from the general public who's interested in your project, but it also can be funded through our committee-based process. And so there's a couple of options there. Now, you can track what's happening with your grant. If it is being funded, maybe crowdfunded by people that you know or funded by someone in the community, you'll be able to see that on your profile. So when your grant is first posted, you'll see these gray boxes off to the right-hand side of your profile, 0% funded, and only X amount needed. So that will be the total amount of your grant, whether it's $50, $250, $1,000, whatever it might be. So I, as an individual community member, could go on and take a look at everything that's posted and find one that I love. I can click fund this project and I can fund it partially or in full. If people are partially funding your grant, you'll see that your gray bar will start to turn green as people participate in contributing to your grant. If it's 100% funded, it will say 100% funded. Now, you will only see this if your grant is being funded by the general public. You will not see this happening if your grant is being considered to be funded through the committee-based process. So all of our grants, whether they are funded by the committee or by the general public, as long as they're funded by September, then, or sometime by the end of September, then they will be delivered in October. We generally do a surprise delivery day sometime in October when all the grants that have been funded up to that point, we have those in hand. We go out to the schools or in some way, shape, or form deliver those to each teacher who's had a grant or grants funded. In that packet would be your congratulations letter, a certificate, a live check made out to you, and instructions for how to report on your grant once it is completed. So if you are following along on your profile and you see that your grant has been funded by someone from the general public or a group of people from the public, and you need those funds to implement your project before October, then you certainly can reach out to me, and my contact information will be at the end of this slide deck. You can reach out to me and we'll see about getting those funds to you. But if it's not imperative, then everything will be delivered in October. And there's also the opportunity for grants to be funded after that. So don't be discouraged if your grant is not funded in that original delivery day situation, because the grants stay up on our website through the end of March, and we often see quite a bit of funding happening over the holidays and heading into the second semester. So please don't get discouraged, and just want to make sure that you continue to let people know about the opportunities to fund what's happening in your classroom. So once all is said and done, don't forget that you are required to create an outcome report. So there's two elements to your outcome report. There is the narrative, which goes on the website, and there is also the expense form and receipts that do not go on the website. Those come directly to us here at Champions for Learning. So once your project is completed, you go back into your profile and click on the grant that was funded. You'll see down at the bottom in the right-hand corner, Impact to My Classroom. You're going to want to click on that, and you will be able to fill in your narrative. The number of students impacted, please don't forget to complete that line, especially if it's different from in your request. And then your outcomes. What were the wonderful, engaging learning activities that happened because of this project? Please be descriptive, be enthusiastic about what you write here. This, again, is a public-facing document, and a copy of it is sent to your specific donor. So you want to make sure they know what an impact this made in your classroom. You can add pictures to highlight. And then this is kind of backwards from the submission form. When you're doing your grant request, you save, 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 and then submit. When you're writing your outcome report, it will actually ask you to submit the outcome report first, and then this screen will pop up, and at that point you can save it. So don't forget to save it. You're going to submit and then save. If you do not save it, it is not available online for the general public to see. And once you save it, you'll see this little blue box in your profile, which means that your outcome report has been completed. Additionally, you will need to send us your expense form and your receipts. So in the packet, when your grant is delivered to you, are those instructions with how to do all of this, as well as an expense form. This is very important. We are accountable to your donors to make sure that the money is spent properly. So another thing to remember before I talk about the expense report is, if your grant is funded and you realize that you cannot purchase the items in your original request, or you have to shift the request slightly, please do reach out and talk to me before you make those changes on your own. If you're purchasing something that's completely different from what's on your expense form, what's in your budget from the original grant request, we'll need to reach out to the donor to make sure that they're still willing to cover that. So please don't make that decision yourself. If you have changes to your grant request or to the budget items, please reach out to me first to talk about that. So when it comes time to submit your outcome report, we're going to need all your receipts related to the grant. Something important to think about when you're out shopping for the items, whether you're doing it online or in person, please do not commingle this receipt with anything personal or with another grant. So for example, if you're running out to Walmart to buy supplies for your classroom and you decide to get a few groceries as well, please make those two separate transactions. Do not have those things commingled on a receipt. It makes it very confusing for us when we start to try to do the math on those. Likewise, if you have 2 or 3 grants funded, please do not include all those grants on a single receipt. You're going to need to report on each one separately. So please, again, keep those receipts as separate as possible. It just makes things much easier on the reporting end. Please make sure that your receipt total matches the amount that you list here on your reporting form. So if you've only purchased one item, then, you know, that's pretty simple, right? You just list that item and you send us the receipt and it's easy. But if you're doing a project that has multiple things and maybe categories of things, so for example, if you're doing a garden request, you may have 3 different line items within your original budget, and that might be dirt and soil, tools and equipment, and seeds and plants, right? So everything you buy is going to fall into those 3 categories. So when you come to do your expense form, you can mimic those categories. You would have those 3 categories and the totals that you've spent and maybe label them A, B, and C. And then on your receipts, you can label A, B, and C on your receipts so we know which specific items fall into those categories. It's just very helpful for us to make sure that everything matches. And if you've already done that and it's very clear, then we don't have to reach out to you multiple times to try to wander our way through your receipts. So very important. If you have any questions about that, please do reach out. And we do really encourage you to do that as soon as your project is completed. So if you have a project that is done in November or December, please don't wait until May to do your outcome report. Go ahead and do that right away and submit these expenses while it's fresh in your mind and you still have everything in front of you. Sometimes when we wait until April or May, the receipts are lost. You don't remember what goes with what. It can be very confusing, and you've got so many things going on at the end of the school year. We don't want to add this to any stress that you have. If your project isn't happening until April or May, then of course we can't have you completing your outcome report early. So keep that in mind, but if it is done early, go ahead and finish up and get that to us as soon as possible. And don't forget to write a thank you note to your donor. They really appreciate hearing from you and from your students the impact that they were able to make in your classroom. You're welcome to write a thank you note at the beginning when your grant is originally funded. Your donor will, as I said, get a copy of your outcome report, but it's always nice for them to hear from you at the end of the project as well. So one or the other, thank you note when it's funded or a thank you note at the end, either way, but please don't forget that. It's vitally important in making sure your donor understands how they've been able to impact your classroom. So that's the basic overview of writing a classroom grant request. It is very simple, but if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is on the slide here, asnyder@championsforlearning.org, and you can reach me at 643-4755. We also will be hosting 2 workshops, virtual workshops, one on July the 23rd and one on August 11th, to walk you through a live version of what we just did here and walk you through our site and show you some great examples of grant requests that have been funded. So we look forward to working with you. Best of luck in the 2020-21 school year, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks so much.